You know, the way things are today with all the stress that we encounter in modern society, it's easy to be, put in a bad mood. I mean, I go on Facebook, I could be in the greatest mood, feeling great, and then I'll see posts about animals being hurt or tortured, animals being eaten in festivals in China, and my mood drops like a rock. I just, I get in a murderous mood. I fantasize getting on a plane with a bunch of gangbangers with AK-47s, going to China and killing all the people that are killing dogs. But that's just a fantasy that'll never happen. First of all, if I got to China, I'd probably be dead for the coronavirus, but that's another story. But anyway, I want to talk today about foods that could possibly uplift your mood and get you in a better mood if you're feeling a little down, such as being depressed or unhappy or something like that. But you have to understand that your mood could be influenced by various factors. Stress, like I said, the environment, things around you could put you in a bad mood. Poor sleep. Poor sleep can make you very irritable and moody. Just even genetics. There's some people have just a genetic tendency to be in a bad mood most of the time. And then you have mood disorders, anxiety or depression or anything, something like that. And of course, there's nutritional deficiencies because nutrients, as we will see, are needed to influence the synthesis of brain neurotransmitters, which are chemicals produced in the brain that communicate nerve signals. And the extent of these neurotransmitters largely determines your mood. A lot of the drugs, I should say all of the drugs that are prescribed to treat depression work by influencing these various neurotransmitters. In past video, I discussed one particular neurotransmitter called dopamine. Dopamine is a kind of a happy neurotransmitter in the sense that it makes you driven. It's also the neurotransmitter for sex. When dopamine goes high, your libido usually goes high also. And of course, having too much, there's always a thin line between having enough and too much. In the case of dopamine, if you have too much, it's like it produces schizophrenia-like symptoms. It's called mania. So that's, there's always a limit. However, when you eat food that influences neurotransmitters, you don't have to worry about this kind of stuff because it's kind of self-limiting, meaning that the brain will produce enough neurotransmitters, but it'll quickly curtail the production of excess neurotransmitters. So now let's take a look at, generally speaking, there was a review published last year in the journal Psychiatry Research that looked at over 2,000 studies and narrowed it down to 18 studies to discover or find which particular types of eating styles positively influence mood. And the diets that they found that are able to do this, the first one was called DASH. DASH is an acronym for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. Basically, it's a diet that's high in potassium, low in sodium, and it's usually prescribed or for people that have high blood pressure. It's rich, of course, in fruits and vegetables and low in sodium, as I said. Any type of vegetable-based diet also positively influences mood, although I've met a lot of unhappy vegans, so I'm not so sure about that one. Any glycemic load based, in other words, anything that controls blood sugar swings, low carbohydrate diets, for example, anything that causes prevents excess insulin release, also will improve mood because a large insulin release tends to lower the blood glucose level fairly rapidly, and this tends to make you feel both tired and irritable. A lot of times you'll notice if you eat a high carbohydrate meal, within about maybe an hour or so, you feel a little sleepy, a little tired, and again, depending on other influences, you could also be very moody and irritable. The ketogenic diet, as I said, the extreme low carbohydrate diet, 20 grams a day or less, also positively influences mood. In fact, there's been studies that show that, let me explain a little, I have to explain a ketogenic diet is so named because having or not eating sufficient carbohydrate or eating a very low carbohydrate diet, meaning 20 grams or less, tends to increase the production of 3 keto acids or ketone bodies. Now, these ketone bodies are known to positively influence mood in the brain. And this explains the reason why a ketogenic or low carbohydrate diet will definitely positively influence brain function. In other words, it'll put you in a better mood and tend to make you less irritable. Although, sometimes it depends. I mean, sometimes the complete lack of carbohydrates, after a while, it does produce a little bit of irritability. That's why you probably want to go off it every so often, have some carbs. The insulin, by the way, in a certain amount, the insulin will have a relaxing effect on the brain, as long as it's not in excess. Paleo diets, again, because they veer towards having lower carbohydrate and high glycemic load content, will also positively influence mood. Now, there's certain foods, specific foods, which have been found to also positively influence mood, help prevent depression, make you feel better. And this is what the research shows. You guys probably already know from my past videos, or maybe you read it somewhere or heard it. Omega-3 fatty acids is found in various types of fatty fish, such as salmon, halibut, mackerel, what else? Sardines. This type of fatty acid, omega-3, of which there are 2, EPA and DHA. These definitely influence mood and help to lower depression. As a matter of fact, there's some psychiatrists theorize, I should say, that a lot of the reason why antidepressant drugs are among the biggest or most prescribed drugs is because a lot of people don't consume enough omega-3 fatty acids. And that makes sense when you realize that 60% of the fat in your brain is composed of one of the omega-3 fatty acids called DHA, or this is a tough one to pronounce, docosahexaenoic acid, DHA. 40 to 60% of the fat in the brain is composed of that particular omega-3 fatty acid. And again, both of them, DHA and EPA, those are the 2 preformed omega-3 fatty acids. They're closely associated with prevention of depression. Now, to give you an idea of how much omega-3 is in food, a 3.5 ounce or 100 gram portion of salmon provides 2,260 milligrams of EPA and DHA. So eating this type of fish, a couple, 2-3 times a week will give you enough omega-3. However, if you don't eat this type of fatty fish, and some of the type of fish that bodybuilders like to consume before a contest, is too low in fat, and I've discussed it in recent videos, too low in fat to provide any sufficient amounts of omega-3, so they don't count. I'm talking about fatty fish. If you eat them about 2 or 3 times a week, you probably don't even need to take an omega-3 or fish oil supplement. However, if you don't eat fatty fish, it's really a good idea to consume a omega-3 or fish oil supplement. I don't eat a lot of fish. In fact, I don't eat fish at all. Just don't have a taste for them. And I use omega-3 fatty acid. I take a fish oil, liquid fish oil. I take it every day, and I take about 5 grams a day. It does definitely affect my mood. I very rarely get in extended bad moods. Again, only if I see something that really, like hurting animals, that type of thing, will put me in a bad mood, or nasty people put me in a bad mood. But I quickly recoil from it, probably because of the omega-3 in my brain. So consider omega-3 fatty acids or fatty fish. Dark chocolate or cocoa contains a number of compounds known to favorably influence mood states. These compounds include caffeine, theobromine, acetylphenylalanine, it's hard to pronounce, which is a substance chemically similar to cannabinoids that have been linked to improved mood. Endocannabinoids are chemicals produced in the brain that are kind of related to the active ingredient in marijuana, THC. THC can interact with endocannabinoids. Cannabinoids in the brain positively influence mood, eating, and several other aspects of health. They were just only discovered a couple of years ago. In other words, the bottom line is there are natural pot receptors in the brain, if you want to put it that way. Now, besides these compounds, cocoa contains various flavonoids, which are known to increase blood flow in the brain because the flavonoids positively influence the synthesis of nitric oxide. Nitric oxide, of course, works by dilating blood vessels and increasing blood flow. When you increase blood flow in the brain, you also increase your mood. You get a better mood, and you get a better release of neurotransmitters. Another type of food that's really good for influencing positive mood are fermented foods, also known as prebiotics. Now, they're called prebiotics because they serve as a kind of a food source for the intestinal microbiome, which is the population of bacteria, fungi, and other organisms that reside in the colon that produce extremely positive health effects and influence everything from the immune system to mental states. Typical fermented foods, again, these are prebiotics. They again provide food for the intestinal bacteria. Fermented foods include kimchi, yogurt, kefir, kombucha, sauerkraut. These all improve gut health and mood. They do that by influencing the growth of beneficial bacteria in the colon that can produce serotonin. As I said, serotonin is a neurotransmitter that affects many aspects of human behavior, such as mood, stress response, appetite, and sexual drive. When you take tryptophan, for example, at night to help you sleep, the reason tryptophan will help you sleep is because tryptophan is the precursor for serotonin synthesis in the brain. Two enzymes convert tryptophan into serotonin. So serotonin, you could say, is a relaxing and calming neurotransmitter that positively affects mood, and the intestinal bacteria seems to have a definite influence on serotonin levels in the brain. Now, also the intestinal microbiome, they produce a short-chain fatty acid called butyrate. Butyrate is also very beneficial for brain health, and some emerging studies suggest it can help prevent brain degeneration, such as Alzheimer's disease, by helping to prevent the accumulation of toxic proteins that are associated with the onset of Alzheimer's disease, such as beta amyloid 42. I saw recently they actually sell butyric acid supplements, and I'm not sure of the value of these. I really don't know whether they would do the same thing as the endogenously produced butyric acid or butyrate that's produced by intestinal bacteria. I do know that the butyric acid supplements are quite expensive, whereas the butyrate produced naturally is about as cheap as you can get. It's free if you eat these prebiotic foods. I also taking probiotics, such as your various bacteria they sell in supplement form. That can also positively influence butyrate production. But you should know, as I pointed out in my Applied Metabolics newsletter, when you take the probiotic supplements, they only last in the body for about 2 weeks and then they're gone. So in other words, if you're going to use probiotics, you're going to have to take it on a daily basis to maintain that population of bacteria in your intestine, because they don't last. They're gone in about 2 weeks. Another food that can positively influence mood are oats. Now, oatmeal. I think I did a video on oatmeal, and I know I've written an article on the health value of oats in my Applied Metabolics newsletter. A very extensive article that basically focuses on some of the very little known antioxidant compounds that have very wide-ranging effects on health. I wrote about that in Applied Metabolics. It's any subscriber can access that in the online archive on my Applied Metabolics website. But oats can improve mood because the soluble fiber contained in oats allows a slower release of carbohydrates into the blood. And again, this positively influences insulin and other factors that affect neurotransmitter balance. In one study, those who ate 1.5 to 6 grams of fiber at breakfast reported better mood and energy levels. That's about, you get a little bit more than that if you eat a bowl of oatmeal. This was attributed to more stable blood sugar levels, which is important for controlling mood swings and irritability. In other words, when your blood glucose goes down, again, from excess insulin release or eating refined carbohydrates, you're going to be in a very bad mood. You're going to be very irritable. So you want to always control the blood glucose level. Soluble fiber, as found in fruits, vegetables, and oats, is an excellent way to modify carbohydrate intake. In fact, if you ever consume a refined carbohydrate, whatever, let's say a candy bar, fruit juice, something like that, if you also at the same time ingest a source of soluble fiber, let's say, for example, psyllium powder, or let's say you have some oatmeal with it, you'll definitely slow down the absorption of the carbohydrates, which will prevent mood swings that would otherwise result from eating those refined carbohydrates, which cause, again, a rush of insulin, which lowers the blood glucose and sets you up for a lower mood state and irritability. Another good food for modulating your mood are berries, such as blueberries, strawberries. These can boost mood because it's thought to be related to the antioxidant content of berries. Now, berries contain anthocyanidins, which is a kind of unique type of polyphenol antioxidant. And the thing that's interesting about it is that unlike most antioxidants, which have difficulty getting into the brain because of the protective blood-brain barrier, these antioxidants can freely get into the brain, such as the antioxidants found in blueberries. And not only do they influence brain, the mood because of the antioxidant effect, it kind of protects stuff like nitric oxide, and it protects the premature breakdown of neurotransmitters, which will positively influence mood. But these also, there's been studies showing, both animal and human studies showing that when you eat blueberries, you actually cause the brain to revert back. It almost makes it go back to the way it was when you were younger. For example, one study of rats equal to humans about 65 years old showed that when the rats were fed blueberry extract, the way their brains worked reverted back to the way their brains worked when they were the equivalent of a 19-year-old. So in other words, theoretically, regularly eating blueberries can make an older brain work like a younger brain, which is very good. As a matter of fact, I will freely admit, when I first came across that research about 15 years ago, when I did an article in a bodybuilding magazine about the health effects of blueberries, I was so impressed that I actually started eating blueberries. Up to that time, I hadn't even eaten blueberries. I started adding it to my protein drinks. I've been doing ever since. So I eat blueberries every single day. I think they're one of the healthiest things you can eat. They're very important. I strongly suggest it. And as far as other berries, for example, strawberries, I just recently saw a study on strawberries, had to do with women. They found that women who eat equivalent, I think it was about a half a cup or a cup of strawberries every day, it was something like a 75% decreased risk of getting Alzheimer's disease. Again, these are because of the unique compounds found in strawberries. One of these compounds is called fisetin, which is available in a supplement form. I think I did a video on fisetin. I know I've written about it in Applied Metabolics, but fisetin, one of the unique effects of fisetin is that it helps to remove senescent cells. These are older cells that cause systemic inflammation, which is a major cause of many of the symptoms of aging. So there's substances in strawberry that'll help to slow down the aging process and prevent brain degeneration. And of course, knowing that alone will improve your mood. Nuts are another mood elevating food. And one of the reasons why various nuts are able to improve mood is because they contain the amino acid L-tryptophan. As I said, L-tryptophan is the immediate precursor for the mood elevating chemical serotonin. Again, several of the antidepressant drugs that are sold by prescription work by increasing serotonin in the brain, but you can do it naturally through certain dietary practices. Eating bananas actually contain serotonin. Now, how much of it survives the digestive process and influences brain chemistry, I couldn't tell you. But bananas contain them, and nuts contain tryptophan, which, as I said, acts as an immediate precursor for serotonin synthesis. A 10-year study of 15,980 people linked moderate nut intake, with the key word being moderate, to a 23% lower risk of depression when the nuts were consumed as part of the Mediterranean diet, which does feature nuts. It features small amounts of fish, nuts, fruits, vegetables, a little bit of red wine, and of course extra virgin olive oil. That's the Mediterranean diet. They use the word moderate because nuts contain, they're loaded with fat. Now, the fat in nuts is mostly monounsaturated fat. It's not saturated fat. It's not a bad kind of fat, but because fat contains the densest content of calories at 9 calories per gram, you don't want to go crazy. You don't want to go crazy eating pounds of nuts simply because you'll be getting an excess amount of calories. On the other hand, something to consider, and this is very interesting, is that recent studies show that the fat nuts are apparently a little bit harder to digest than previously believed. And they found that as much as, I can't remember the exact figure, but I think it was as much as 50% of the fat content of nuts literally passes right through you. In other words, it's excreted out. You don't even absorb it. Still, I'd go on the side of caution and not overeat nuts. But know this, eating a certain amount of nuts or eating nuts in moderate amounts, Brazil nuts, peanuts, cashews, whatever you like, will definitely beneficially affect your mood because of their tryptophan content. Now, an obvious mood elevator, I think everybody knows this. You don't need to watch a video to know this, is caffeine. Caffeine is an instant mood elevator because of the coffee, I should say, is an instant mood elevator because of the caffeine it contains. The caffeine in coffee prevents a naturally occurring compound called adenosine from attaching to brain receptors. Now, adenosine, when it attaches to the brain receptors, it tends to make you tired, and it decreases alertness and attention. And when you get tired, there's a tendency to be irritable. So by blocking adenosine receptors, caffeine elevates your mood very, very rapidly. Caffeine increases the release of various mood-boosting neurotransmitters such as dopamine and norepinephrine. There was a study and there's other elements besides caffeine. It's something to consider that also elevate mood. These chemicals are called polyphenols. In fact, most of the health benefits attributed to coffee, such as I think a 62% decreased risk of acquiring diabetes, is not related to the caffeine content, but rather to the polyphenol content. In fact, a study of 72 people found that both caffeinated and decaffeinated coffee significantly improved mood compared to a placebo, and this suggests that coffee contains other compounds that influence mood. The researchers attributed the boost in mood to the various phenolic compounds, such as chlorogenic acid, and as I said, the other polyphenol compounds in coffee, which also exist in decaffeinated coffee. So decaffeinated coffee can also improve mood. Still, another food known to improve mood are beans and lentils. They improve mood because they're a rich source of B-complex vitamins, which improve mood by increasing levels. Again, the B-complex vitamins act as coenzymes in the production and synthesis of various brain neurotransmitters, such as serotonin and dopamine, which are known to elevate mood. Also, B-complex also increases other neurotransmitters, such as norepinephrine and even gamma butyric acid, which is the main inhibitory neurotransmitter, which improves mood by helping you relax and calm you down and relieve stress. GABA is the main neurotransmitter at night that puts you to sleep. A lot of sleeping pills work through affecting GABA, again, the main inhibitory neurotransmitter of the brain. So that's about it. I see that I'm at the 23-minute mark. I've gone a little bit over, more than I wanted to on this video, but I thought that this is an important subject because maybe it'll make people be nicer to each other. As a side note, I arrived in California let me see, what was it? Well, it's going on 51 years now. I've been here in California, and I've seen a lot of changes in the way people act. This is just a little rant I'm doing here. So when I first came here, people were so nice. I came right off the boat from Brooklyn, New York, and you could probably still hear my accent, some of the words I say. I had a typical New York bad guy attitude. I was a nice guy. I've always been a nice guy, but I tended to be quick on the draw, so to speak, when it came to my mood. I remember when I first came out here, people would go, you'd walk down the street, people would go like this. I didn't know what that meant, and what it meant was it was a peace sign, they called it. This is like 1968. There was a peace sign. But me from New York, I thought they were doing this to me. So I'd go, well, fuck you too. And these people would look at me like I was crazy. I really feel bad about doing that. Now, it took me a little bit to catch on. Somebody explained to me what this meant. We didn't see that in New York. You have to understand. But anyway, that's about it for foods that affect mood. If you want to have the best, if you want to have further and the most in-depth information on nutrition, exercise science, hormonal therapy, fat techniques that really work, anti-aging research you can use today, ergogenic aids. Did I say exercise science? Women's health and fitness. Subscribe today to my Applied Metabolics newsletter, www.appliedmetabolics.com. It's 40 to 50 pages every month, no ads. It's written in plain English. I've been a writer for 45 years. I know how to write. I try to make it interesting. I put a lot of anecdotes in there about the golden days of bodybuilding to kind of, soften up the research so it doesn't, makes it a little easier to read. This comes with having been a writer for so many years. The people that put out most of these digital publications are not writers at all, and it shows. Their writing reads like it's like wading through thick mud. I mean, I love science. I can't even get through a page of their material. I can't even read it. It's so freaking boring. But anyway, I shouldn't say that. I'm being mean now. See, I'm getting in a bad mood. I need to eat some of these foods. Anyway, so subscribe today again, www.appliedmetabolics.com. And when you subscribe, I'll send you an invitation to join my private Applied Metabolics Facebook page, where every day I post new information on nutrition, exercise, general medicine, and health. I also have an email portal on my Applied Metabolics website where current subscribers only, I don't answer unsolicited questions, can send me short questions, and I'll be happy to answer it as a service and appreciation of their subscription to Applied Metabolics. And let's see, what else can I say? You're welcome to leave comments under this video for including topics for future videos. I will consider topics which I think will interest a large number of people. I won't consider really specialized topics that only a very few people are interested in, such as one guy who kept asking me about urine therapy, which involves drinking your own urine. I'm sorry, that doesn't interest most people. It certainly doesn't interest me. So I won't be talking about that. I'll only be talking about stuff that I think a large number of people will be interested in. And if you want to have the best friend you'll ever have, you go to your local shelter, adopt a dog. Bruno's here. He's just a couple of feet away from me. He's a little old man now, so he likes to take long naps. He's sleeping on the couch. I didn't have the heart to wake him up. Maybe I'll try to get him in my next video. Thanks for listening. Take care.